The 2-week Minecraft phase. You start a new Minecraft world, grind for a couple of weeks, and then eventually things start to slow down. After a while, you lose interest, and when you come back, you just don't feel like playing in that old world. Instead, you go and start a new one because you feel like, no, this time, this will be the one. This time, it will be different. Newsflash, it probably won't. Not unless you try something different, which is what I'm going to show you today. This mod pack is different. The mods in here change the game enough for me to want to stay with the world for as long as I can, because with this mod pack, my Minecraft, your Minecraft, can really be that good. I call it the Sensible MC mod pack, which has finally officially become available for download on Modern. And today, I'll be showing you as many mods from the pack as I can. So if you like what you see, you can go try it out for yourself. Let's get started. 3D skin layers. If you take a look at my eyes there on my character model, they are 3D instead of just that floating plane on the left. So kind of a nice mod to make your character models feel a little bit more 3D. Skin shuffle. This mod allows you to change your player's skin in-game through this little carousel here. And so when you load it, it'll ask you to rejoin the server. If you're on a server, for example, you can load the file for the skin from various different locations, like a file on your computer, or in this case, you can use a username. So if you search up a username, of a skin that you want to use, it'll find someone out there who has that skin with that username and will load it for you. So you can load that, and yeah, there's a couple of other places, but this is a pretty cool way to get new skins. Attack through grass. Tall grass can get pretty annoying in Minecraft, especially because typically you can't attack through it, but this mod allows you to do that. So if you're targeting a hostile mob and swing, you will be able to hit them. Better climbing. This mod makes it so that whenever you're climbing on a ladder, if you look down or up, you will go faster or slower based on just, where you're looking. So if you look up, you'll climb that ladder a little bit faster. It also has some other things like reduces the slowdown as you pass through vines and things, but this generally just makes ladders a little less annoying to go up and down. Better safe bed. We've all been there where you're inside your house but you can't sleep. Well, with this mod, if the mobs can't pathfind to you, then you can still sleep. So you'll see here, even though there's tons of mobs around me, I was able to sleep in the bed because none of them could reach me, which is pretty cool. You're safe in your house. Better than mending. So the mending enchantment, holding the item in your offhand, it's familiar and it still works with this mod, but with this mod, you can just crouch and right click on a tool that has mending and you can spend your XP specifically on the tool. So as you can see, the typical mending function still works, but if you just crouch and right click, it'll fix. Carry on. With this mod installed, you'll be able to pick up any tile entities, and you'll be a little slower when you do, but if you hold down the keybind and right-click them, you can pick them up in your hand and place them back down. That includes most blocks that you use, like smokers or blast furnaces, and chests especially, but it allows you to pick up mobs, and you can actually stack them, which is pretty funny. You do have to be above the thing, so here I'm trying to pick up the chest, but I can't until I'm at least level with it. So with this, it'll be easier to move stuff. Door knocking.
Open up, it's the IRS!
This mod lets you right-click doors to knock on them.
Let me put the girls away. I'm so confused. The first time I was like destroying the door, I was like, oh my gosh.
Hello? Are you harboring any villagers in here?
Crawl. Now see, I'm no cave diver, but this is useful in Minecraft. If you hold down a keybind with this mod, you'll be able to crawl through 1x1 block spaces, which can be handy if you're just trying to strip mine or get through places. So with this mod, you'll be able to do that. F-sit. Sometimes you just need to take a load off, and with this mod, you'll be able to. If you just hit a keybind, your character will sit down, and you'll just be able to sit and chill. He's just a chill guy. Client tweaks. This mod adds a variety of little quality of life things like hiding your own particle effects, you can toggle that on, or making so you can't place your offhand torch, making the side of glass panes a little wider, easier to place. Just a bunch of little simple things to help make your game a little bit less annoying. Drop spread 2. When you die in Minecraft, typically your items like spray everywhere, but with this mod, they'll all be nicely clumped in one place, so you don't have to like run around and hope to find them everywhere. So it's kind of makes death a little less annoying. Dynamic crosshair. With this mod, your crosshair will dynamically adapt based on what you're doing, based on what block you're holding. If you're holding a tool, it also works with the reach around mod, which we'll talk about later. It'll tell you if the tool you're using doesn't work on the block, And will also just dynamically hide the crosshair if you're not looking or using looking at anything or using anything. So yeah, it's kind of a convenient thing to make your crosshair a little bit more dynamic. Easy anvils. With this mod installed, any items you place in an anvil will stay there, and they'll even render on the top. Easy magic. Similar deal with this mod. The enchantment tables will now hold whatever items or lapis that you place in them, and they also add a reroll mechanic. So if you don't like the enchantments, you can, for a price, change them out with the reroll button. Elytra drag. Elytras are a pretty awesome tool for getting around, but it's really easy to smash into things and die. So with this mod, pressing a keybind will allow you to hit the brake flaps on the elytra, so they'll kind of activate brake mode, and it will slow you down and kind of let you glide down and make safe landings and slow down before you hit stuff and die. So once you're in that late game and you want super awesome elytra movement, then this mod's definitely for you. Falling tree and separated leaves. As a true Minecrafter, I never left floating logs to begin with, but with this mod, it'll be a lot easier to avoid that. It gives you a bunch of settings for how to cut trees, like instantaneous breaking, where the whole tree just disappears, basically, which is fast and pretty efficient. The next one is similar to it. It has this little fall animation and just gives you the items the same as instantaneous. Fall block makes the leaves disappear, but the logs will stick around, so you still have to break them, which is pretty nice. This next mode makes all of them drop as an item, the leaves and the logs, which has an odd little glitch where if you keep cutting the logs, it'll keep trying to make the leaves fall, which is a little weird. But my next is probably my favorite for the reason that it does a good in-between. It's called shift down, and it just makes it so that the logs will shift down to the place that you're breaking, so that you can kind of imagine you're cutting the whole tree down, and eventually once the leaves are disconnected, they'll disappear. So harvest with ease. With this mod, you can just right-click any plants that are fully grown, and they'll drop, whatever they would have if you'd broken them originally. But this means you don't have to uproot the plant. You can just right-click it and get your harvest. Yes, sir. Yes. Jade. This is a pretty helpful mod if you're not sure about what blocks you're looking at, or if you just want to get more information about what you're looking at. It'll tell you what's in chests. It'll tell you the health of entities when you look at them. It'll even tell you whether or not a villager is employed. It'll give you their employment time. It'll tell you how fast crops need to grow, and just a bunch of general useful information about things. If you crouch, it'll actually give you descriptions. I think that's because of the item description mod. It's pretty configurable. You can change how it looks a bunch. It gives you a bunch of options for, the opacity and where it is on the screen, so you can get it pretty clean looking. Jungle log, short grass. Lamb dynamic lights. This mod makes your torches and any glowing entities cast light on blocks around them without having to be placed, just like they would work with shaders. This mod is pretty smooth compared to others, and it just makes it a lot easier to traverse caves. Scribble. Oh yeah, who doesn't like some rich formatting? So with this mod installed, you're given some tools and options for how to customize the color or type of font that you put into books. It also gives a little bit more granular control over pages and deleting pages, adding pages. You can even export books to a file and then load them into another book, so you can copy books. Grind enchantments.
These enchants onto books. So here we go.
This mod makes it so that the grindstone can be used to scrape enchantments off of books onto other books. So if you have an enchantment book that has many different enchantments, you can separate that onto different books. And that also means that you can basically move enchantments wherever you like. You can take them off of a tool and put them onto a book, and then put it onto another tool, which just makes enchantments easier. Master cutter. This mod makes the stone cutter a little bit more useful because it allows you to cut more than just stone, but you can cut wood into its various types of things like fences and trapdoors, which is pretty useful. If you put logs in, it gives you even more options. Makes the stone cutter a lot better. Blasting plus. This mod makes the blast furnace a little bit more useful because more than just cooking ores, it can also now do basically the same things that a furnace can. It's just a better furnace. It can cook cobblestone a bit faster. Northern compass. This mod makes it so that compasses no longer just point to world spawn by default, but they'll actually point to north. So you can see here the map and the compass are in sync. So when you look south, your compass will be pointing south, and if you look north, your compass will be looking north. So now you can actually use cardinal directions alongside maps on a multiplayer server or just for your own sake, which is pretty cool. Passive shield. This mod makes shields a little bit more useful, so if you have a shield in your offhand, it will still mitigate some damage even if you don't have it raised at that exact moment. So you can see here, I take a hit without the shield in the hand, I take about 2.5 hearts, but with the shield in hand, even without blocking, I block about 1.5, so I don't take as much damage. Realistic fire spread. Fire is fire, and in this game, it behaves like fire. So if you hit people with torches, they'll catch on fire because there's fire in your torch. And if you're on fire and you run around, you're going to catch other stuff on fire. So here you can see I'm on fire and it's lighting the grass up and the leaves up. It also means if you shoot arrows through fire, they'll catch fire, which will catch those things on fire. So just burning everywhere. Just fire, 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 fire. Strong leads. With this mod installed, your leads will not just snap on you the moment you get too far away, so you can reliably transport. Tax-free levels. This is a bit of a more technical mod. It's kind of hard to show, but in the settings here you can see it changes the level base. The player level at which the cost flattening starts, removes all tax. 30 is reasonable. Removes the anvil cost limit of 40, the corresponding too expensive message, so anvils don't suck. Mobs always drop. If an entity is holding something in its hand and you kill it, you'd expect it to drop it. Well, with this mod installed, mobs will always drop whatever they're holding in their hands. So yeah, any armor that an entity is wearing or any tools you can drop, then you can loot it. So yeah, you can get that gold Gucci armor. Yes, sir. Vanilla refresh. This mod adds a bunch of little quality of life changes like path sprinting, displaying the health of nearby mobs, or if you're holding a clock, it'll tell you what time it is. Adds the day counter, homing experience orbs you just saw. It allows you to drop ladders while you're climbing downwards. It'll just drop it for you so you don't have to like place them. It allows you to change the armor stand position and a bunch of other things that you have to access through the settings, but yeah, pretty good mod. Accurate block placement. Minecraft typically has a delay when you're holding down right click to place stuff, but with this mod it removes that delay, so you can place blocks basically instantly. Trowel. This mod allows you to craft the trowel item, which if you use to right click with, it will randomly select blocks from your hotbar. So whatever blocks you have in your hotbar, it will randomly select from, which is super useful for texturing and getting good randomization in your builds. So you can make your builds look a little better with the trowel. Reach around. This mod allows you to place blocks on faces that you can't see. So if you're trying to bridge down or bridge across, it'll allow you to place the block even though you can't actually look at that face to select it, which is really convenient for getting around and building. Like if you're trying to complete a portal frame or bridge across lava. Supplementaries and amendments. These two mods are some of the highest quality and most feature-rich mods in the pack. They add a ton of new blocks and items to the game, like this jar and altimeter here. Allows you to place any liquids in a cauldron, which is pretty cool. Hanging signs. A food basket, so you can put all your foods in there, so you can just switch between them and then just click on the food basket to eat, which is really convenient. The safe item, which you can key to a key and you can only open it with a key, same with a netherite door. Flags, which you can customize like banners. Ropes, which you can use to move blocks, which is pretty interesting. You make it with flax. You can put bunting and you can climb it, of course. Hanging torches, candelabra, a bunch of stuff. Super cool. Copper rails. This mod gives a function for copper because you can now craft it into a copper powered rail, which is the same as a standard powered rail, but it's copper, and that means that it can be oxidized. So the copper variant, the waxed copper, goes the fastest compared to standard powered rail, and then gets slower the more oxidized it becomes, until it's ultimately super slow. So this allows you to like variate the kind of speed that you have with the copper rails. It also adds a new item, the rail crossing block, which allows you to connect up rails and power threadstone to change the direction that they switch. Omni Hopper. This mod adds a variety of different hoppers to the game, primarily the Omni Hopper, which can be used to move items up or down or any direction really. It also adds a type of chest block that just spits the items out, as well as the flopper, which behaves like a normal hopper but for fluids, so you can fill up a cauldron and a bunch of other different things that are honestly kind of beyond me. I'm not a super big redstone guy, like, but you can make super compact storage units like this one that I tried.
Redstone pen.
This mod updates how redstone works in the game in a big way. It adds 2 items, the redstone quill and pen. The redstone quill places from redstone in your inventory. The redstone pen can kind of be filled with redstone. And as you can see, the redstone can be placed on blocks next to each other, kind of in this 4-pattern grid. It can be placed on walls, and adds a bunch of different types of relays and indicators. And here we have a remote switch that can be used to activate levers and different stuff from a distance, which is pretty awesome if you want wireless redstone. The relays behave much like standard vanilla redstone. Here we have the inverted relay and the relay, which, as you can see here, the inverted relay is always powered and the relay isn't always powered, so you can get these cool alternating patterns. I'm not super familiar with how this works, but it adds some pulse relays and also a I forget what this is called, but it allows you to cross paths with redstone channels to be crossed. It also adds this logic system, which literally allows you to code redstone logic into the game, which is pretty crazy.
Handcrafted.
This is one of the more interesting furniture mods out there. It adds a bunch of different types of furniture to the game, like these chairs and benches and couches and cushions, which you can use to change the color or place on top of things. We got side tables, which have storage, and a bunch of tables and benches and stuff. Beds, which you can change the bedspread, again, with cushions, and actually like these bed sheets, which have patterns on them, so you can get like your creeper bed in real life in the game. A bunch of different cupboards and drawers and desks things for decoration, which can be changed with the hammer, which is added by the mod, which allows you to kind of change the block state of a bunch of different blocks. It adds a bunch of new fancy paintings, which are cool. They have like a little bit of a 3D element to them, as well as a bunch of like cosmetic cutlery stuff for cluttering around. It can actually place food on them, as well as books. Same deal with books, you can stack them. It adds a smoker variant called the oven, which just is a fancier looking smoker with these cool like oven hoods, which again with the hammer you can change the direction that like they'll bend, so you can get really creative with the builds here, which I've done in this house. You can see here the kitchen area, very pretty. I've kind of mixed this with the supplementary mod. So here we got the kitchen, the candelabra, again, food on the plates in there in the dining room. I really like how the candelabra and the chains work out in the painting. It generally just lets you really make the home kind of your own. We got a faucet here from the supplementaries mod in the kitchen area with those oven hoods. A very cozy environment. The mod allows you to make a very cozy home. And here we have the bedroom with the fancy bedding and the, painting with trophies, actually, that the mod adds. So it also adds a bunch of trims that you can use to build on the house with. You know, kind of make the corners a little bit fancier looking. So yeah, just a great building mod all around.
Sooty chimneys.
This mod adds a bunch of chimney block type variants, which all emit smoke, which are very convenient if you don't want to have to make those bulky chimneys placing a campfire on the top. You can just build a chimney.
Stoneworks.
This mod allows the stone cutter to make a couple more variants of certain blocks. So a bunch of blocks listed on the side there: tuff, basalt, endstone, prismarine, and yeah, just better for building in general.
Withering heights.
If you ever felt like the wither in Java Minecraft was too easy, then this mod's certainly for you. This mod updates the wither mechanics so that he has way more abilities and way more aggressive tools and ability to kill you, which is really cool. And if you do actually finally kill the wither, the end star's got this cool little animation.
Bosses of mass destruction.
This mod adds a variety of new challenging bosses to the overworld, nether, and end dimension. Starting with the Void Blossom, which is this big scary flower plant thing located underground. You can find it by following the pollen from void lilies, which will kind of point you in the direction. The other overworld boss is the Night Lich, whose tower layer can be located with soul stars, which you can also use to summon him. He summons a bunch of bad guys and fires fireballs, so you gotta be careful with him. In the nether, you can run into this chamber where the nether gauntlet can be summoned by mining this eye block. And this boss looks like something straight out of a Zelda game, and it has these like smash attacks, so yeah, he's a tough one. Finally, the last boss is the Obsidilith in the end dimension at the top of these structures and can be summoned by placing an Ender Eye in the top. Each boss has its own creative attacks and abilities and ways that you have to defeat them. And they also drop materials that can be used to craft some pretty powerful items, like this staff that lets you teleport through walls, a reusable Ender Pearl, a staff that prevents spawning, a totem that increases explosion sizes, and a totem that gives you creative flight in a single chunk.
Allay upgrades.
This mod changes a couple of things about allays, like making them stay still if they're on top of amethyst blocks, and be able to be stored in books. So if you throw a book and then throw it again, they'll be moved from place to place.
Brainier bees.
I couldn't exactly get good footage of what this mod does, but it sounded like a good mod to have. It says that it changes some of the bee AI to make it more consistent and reliable. Their homes are memorized more effectively and their pathing has been optimized. So yeah, the game will run a bit better if you're working with bees.
Nifs spiders.
This mod updates spiders in Minecraft so that they're a little freakier. They'll actually crawl on the walls and ceilings and stuff, and their bodies will be rotated so that it looks more natural. And it's just, I don't have arachnophobia, but
Respawning animals.
this mod makes friendly mobs like cows and pigs respawn and despawn like hostile mobs unless you've specifically fed them or bred them, which just means it'll be easier to get farm animals if your world seems empty. You just have to wait for them to spawn.
Persistent parrots.
This mod makes it so that any tamed parrots you have will stay on your shoulder unless you specifically tell them not to by crouch jumping up. That's at the point where they'll jump off. Obviously, they'll get off you if you're drowning or something, but crouch jumping will make your parrot stay off, so they'll stay with you.
Duckling.
This mod adds a couple of new mobs, mainly the duckling, which come in a variety of different variants, as well as the quacklings, which are these super massive dudes that you can trade with, and you can actually give them fishing rods and they'll fish. So alongside the cute ducklings, you got these massive guys you can fish with. You can eat the ducklings, you know, but that's kind of cruel. If you do that, you're almost a terrible person. Fishing reel. This mod makes it so that whatever you fish up with a fishing rod will actually come up as an actual entity rather than just an item that you fished up. So you can actually practice catch and release in Minecraft, or populate a body of water, or generally just, yeah, have a catch of the day flopping around. We got Mr. Quackling here next to me, so yep.
Friends and foes.
This mod adds a bunch of the mobs that we didn't get in the mob votes for Minecraft, including this tough golem guy, which you can give items and stuff and he'll display them. Not really sure what else he does. We got copper golems here, which you can find in villages or you can make, and they can be unoxidized by scraping with a hammer, and they will randomly press any buttons that you find. We've got these glares, which can be tamed with glow berries, and they behave basically like any other tamed mob. They'll follow you around, you can tell them to stay, but their cool abilities, they will tell you where an area is dark enough to spawn bad mobs, so very cute. We got these maulers, which can be fed enchanted items, and then you can grab the XP from them. They're like little XP stores. They're like little XP stores with feet. Ow, what the? We got the Moo Bloom, which literally is just a normal cow, but with flowers growing on it. Their milk doesn't even do anything. They're cool. They're pretty, I guess. Oh! And then we got the Iceologer, which will drop ice on top of your head, which is kind of crazy. Next to him is the Illusioner, which when he takes damage, he'll spawn like a bunch of copies of himself, and you have to find him. Generally not too difficult to kill. This is the Rascal, which will mess with you. If you find him 3 times in a cave, he will give you a reward of like a little bundle, which has a bunch of like valuables in it. So here he gave me some iron ore. Next up we got the Inferno, which is a pretty tough boss. Like, he's basically a Blaze's big brother. If you do end up killing him, he'll drop like these fragments, which can be crafted into a wildfire crown, which will give you a temporary fire resistance effect. So you'll have fire resistance for a bit until you catch on fire, and then it will start counting down and you will start taking damage. This mod also adds the crab, which is really cute. It'll wave at you. And with crab claws, which are dropped from crabs, you can craft a potion of reaching, which will increase your default reaching distance. So all in all, a really cool mod that adds a bunch of new things to the game.
Gipples galore.
This mod adds a new kind of little biome to the game, which can be found in the caves covered with these gelatin blocks, which can be eaten or crafted into gelatin. You can also find these little eye blocks, which when broken spawn the gipples, which will feed on lichen, which is how you breed them. But there's also a chance while you're feeding them lichen that they'll turn into this massive freak of nature, which isn't too difficult to kill, but it is kind of scary looking and it will surprise you. But yeah, gipples, they'll just kind of float around and they'll spawn more gelatin that you can eat, and you can breed them and they float around, and they're just generally a really cute and interesting mod.
Horse buff.
This mod adds a bunch of new changes and features for the horse in Minecraft. Like they'll sit still in rafts, and when you're not they won't wander off. It'll remove the break speed debuff. It'll also improve the step height so that if you're going up paths, they won't stop on the paths. It prevents the horse from bucking or suddenly like stopping on you. Fades the horse when you look down, so that you can actually see below you while you're riding. It changes the horse's head offset so that you can kind of see in front of your horse. You can name your horse Jeb to Rainbow. You can open your survival inventory, and yeah, just generally a bunch of new changes to the horse.
Call your horse.
With this mod installed, it'll be easier to keep track of your horse. If you name it something and then crouch with a horn from a goat, it will become enchanted. And when you use it, your horse will teleport to you, which is really cool. There is a bit of a range limit on it though, so you can only be so far away before the horse won't teleport to you anymore. I can't really determine what the range is. It's a couple 100 blocks at least. You'll see here it isn't calling the horse back. The horse is over there and then it works, so yeah, just bear that in mind. It does work on llamas as well as horses, so yeah, but you can't use one horn for two different things. It has to be one horn per horse.
Pet protect.
This mod prevents you from hurting any tamed animals like your dog, or I presume others, although I only really tested with the dog here. So yeah, that way you won't accidentally kill your friends.
Luna slimes.
This mod adds some features to slime, like the slime attack that they have. You can see the slime on my screen, and it prevents me from being able to jump up one block. They also can merge back together, so two smaller slimes can become a bigger slime. Now, slime balls can be thrown and they bounce, and they also produce that same sticky effect, which works when you throw it on other mobs here. We have this villager who can't jump up because I've slimed him. You've been slimed. Works on basically every mob that I can determine, although for some reason it doesn't really work on drowned, so when I hit it on zombies, they can't jump, but drowns can't.
Snuffles.
This mod adds a cute new creature to the snowy biomes called the Snuffle, which can be configured with a couple of things, like a slime ball or a magma cream to remove some of the blue coloring and to change some of the textures on their face. You can also use shears to show their eyes. They eat baked potatoes, so you can lure them with baked potatoes and breed them with baked potatoes. All in all, pretty cute guys. You saw earlier, you can kind of use their wool to make carpets and like these blocks, which you can't get from killing them, and they don't drop any meat either, so don't do that.
Mystical oak tree.
What is that?
What a huge squirrel you are. What do you mean?
With this mod installed, as you explore the forest, you might come across a mystical oak tree log, which is this face on the oak tree that will give you wisdom if you right-click it, and be angry if you woke it up from sleep.
You must be the one who's ravaging our pristine land. What do you mean? Oh, wise tree, give me wisdom. Oh my gosh, he just turned his head. What? Be gone. Your kind does not walk. Okay, fine. No animal tempt delay.
Usually in Minecraft, animals will have this slight delay when you're luring them if you get out of range or if you switch off of the lure item that you're using. But with this mod installed, that look delay is completely gone. And if you have the item in your hand, they will immediately start following you even if they go out of range. So it makes it a little bit easier to lure animals.
Animal feeding trough.
Using 5 wooden slabs, you can craft the animal feeding trough, which can be used to basically passively breed animals. So if you put food, then they will come and eat it and breed.
Skulk expansion.
This mod changes a couple of mechanics around how Skulk works in the game. Mainly that wardens will now spread Skulk anywhere they go. So Skulk veins and Skulk blocks will appear around them, which is pretty cool actually. It also makes Skull veins climbable like vines, which can slow you, but it can also help you escape, I guess. The mod adds a couple of new recipes like crafting 4 Skulk veins and bottles of enchanting. It also gives the recovery compass some functionality too.
Liberty's villagers.
This mod changes a couple of things about how villagers work, like expands their pathfinding, which you might want to turn down a little bit. It also updates how some of their professions work. So certain villager professions like the cleric or the armorer or the butcher or shepherd will have different functions. Like clerics will heal other villagers, armorers will heal iron golems, and butchers or farmers will feed animals and breed animals if they have the right food types. So you can actually automate that a little bit. Fishermen also fish, so they can actually fish for you if you set them up on a farm. And finally, villagers will take and accept more food types for breeding. Economical villager trading plus, and shifting wares. These 3 mods make trading with villagers a little bit more interesting. First of all, the economical villager trading mod makes it so that the villagers will restock whenever they level up, and also just makes it so that the more you buy and sell, the more often they restock, so they're never like without trades basically throughout the day. Villager Trading Plus makes it so you just have to click once to activate a trade, and Shifting Wares makes it so that whenever you click on a trade, there's a chance that it will just change and you'll get an entirely different trade. So yeah, that way you can change between a villager's stocks more often.
Fixed villager trades.
So in vanilla Minecraft, there's kind of a cheese mechanic you can do where you can break a profession block and then place it again to kind of restock and change the trades that a villager will have, usually to get mending. Well, with this mod installed, it removes that. So the moment a villager gets a profession, their trades will be locked and they won't change if you break the block and then place it down again. So that will help with avoiding the cheese and incentivize you having to just trade with them more.
Villager names.
This mod gives villagers names. Chadwick, Amir, Linda, Jewel, Trudy, Candy.
Villager converting.
With this mod installed, any villagers that get attacked by zombies will always turn into a zombie villager instead of just dying. Apple skin. This mod gives your hotbar a little bit more functionality by showing the saturation level of a food you're about to eat in your hotbar and how much health that's going to get you back as well. So yeah, just generally gives you a bit more information about the value and quality of the food that you're going to eat. Raised. This mod gives you access to an option menu to change the position of your hotbar, so you can raise it up a little bit, change the alignment left or right, that sort of thing. Just put it exactly where you want it. Mouse tweaks. This mod's pretty basic, just gives your mouse a little bit more functionality with interacting with items in the inventory, so you can kind of drag things around in the crafting menu or shift click things into your inventory. Inventory essentials. This mod's super similar to mouse tweaks. It just adds the ability to control click a whole item or shift click just to quickly move a certain item. Just adds more control of items in your inventory. Portable crafting. With this mod installed, you can set a keybind to basically immediately access your crafting table in your inventory, so you don't need to place it down. Client sort. Old faithful. With a keybind press, you can just sort your inventories. Polymorph. This mod is super useful if you have several mods that add different recipes for the same, recipes for basically recipe conflicts. It gives you this little button that you can click to change between different recipes. Stack to nearby chests. This mod allows you to press a button in your inventory or a keybind and basically quick stack any items in your inventory to any other items of that same kind in nearby chests, and it will kind of just do that all in one big wave. It also does restocking, and yes, this is a Terraria feature, and yes, it's pretty customizable, so great mod. Stack refill. With this mod installed, any blocks that run out in your hand will immediately get refilled by any blocks that you have in your inventory. So here, my cobblestone, I just have one in my hand, and then I place it, and then boom, instantly the 64 that I had in my inventory will immediately be placed in my hand. Bedrock inventory animations or smooth swapping. I'm one of those guys that really appreciates tiny little polishes to a game, and with this mod, it makes moving items between inventories, which you're doing a lot in the game, much more interesting. It gives you this 3D graph where you can change the speed and the interpolation, that's a fun word, for how items move in your inventory. You can get pretty goofy with it, but I kind of like it when it's nice and clean and snappy. Tiny item animations and immersive UI. Similar deal with these two mods. They just make items pop a little bit more in the inventory as you move them. They'll sway, they'll swing. Some rare items will have that trail behind them, and yeah, it's just nicer to look at them. Item highlighter. This mod makes it so that any items that just entered your inventory will have this little yellow star to indicate that those are the items that you just picked up, so that way you can find what you picked up a bit easier. Hardcover. This mod changes the recipe book to be a little bit more convenient, like keeping your inventory centered and allowing you to scroll wheel through. It also allows you to kind of right click and see the recipes that are available. It comes with a couple of settings that you can configure, and all in all is a great addition to the recipe book. Recipe book is pain. To top it off, this mod gives you some tabs so that the recipe book follows the creative inventory, so it's a little bit easier to keep track of where everything is. Recipe tweaks. This mod updates and changes, improves really some of the recipes in the game. Just a bunch of different things you can see on screen to make them a bit more consistent, a bit more interesting, like giving uses for blackstone and making bread craftable in your 2x2 inventory, and yeah, a bunch of other different things just to improve the game in a small way. Durability tooltip. So Minecraft does give you that little bar to know an item's durability, but with this mod installed, it'll actually give you an exact number in the tooltip. Tooltip rareness. This mod's really only there for vanity points. It just makes items have a certain rarity based on their value. So diamonds are obviously going to be better than cobblestone. Peek. With this mod installed, you'll be able to quote-unquote peek into things like shulker boxes in the tooltip or hover over compasses to see their location. Food effect tooltips. Sometimes it's handy to see exactly what effects you're going to get from eating certain things. So with this mod installed, you'll be able to know exactly how long the rotten flesh or the golden apple is going to affect you. Status effect bars. This mod gives you an actual visual bar for the countdown on effects. Pocket watch. This mod makes it so that your compasses and your clocks and stuff will render next to your hotbar if they're in your inventory, so that way you don't need to hold them or keep them in your hotbar to look at them. Held item info. This mod provides a little tooltip above your hotbar whenever you switch to an item like an enchanted pickaxe or anything. It'll just tell you what it's got. Inventory move. I'm a busy guy. I want to interact with my menus while I'm moving, and with this mod you can do just that. If you open your crafting table or your inventory, you can just keep walking and running and access your UI without having to stop moving, which is pretty awesome. Controlling. This mod is how your girlfriend describes her ex. I'm just kidding. It gives you the option to search up keybinds in the settings menu. So the keybinds menu is a lot easier to use. It'll show you conflicts. It'll sort by name, by toggle free, anything. It'll makes it a ton way easier to set keybinds in the game. And there's a lot of keybinds because there's a lot of mods. Smooth scrolling refurbished. With this mod, any menus that you scroll through will now scroll smoothly rather than having that clicking stair-stepping like there usually is. Snapper. This is a pretty basic screenshot viewing mod. There's a couple of other ones, but this one's just kind of convenient one. It allows you to see your screenshots in game. You can view them, copy them. You can also open the folder where they're found on your computer. Yeah, which just makes it easier to access your screenshots. You can actually take panoramas for the front main screen, but I'm not like super familiar with that, but technically you can do that if you want to make a custom panorama. Yeah, all in all, just lets you access your screenshots. Fadeless and dark loading screen. This mod makes the mod loading screen darker, like a dark mode, and removes that fade in effect when you load in. Just hammers. This mod adds a new tool to the game that can be crafted basically with the same amount as a pickaxe, but it mines 3x3 at first. So that's with the standard hammer, but it incrementally increases as you improve the type of hammer to a 3x5, I think, and then a 5x1, and then a 5x5 eventually at the end. Yeah, that's the reinforced hammer, which just makes strip mining just absolutely insane. Like, you're basically mining out almost whole chunks with just one click. These hammers are pretty difficult to come by, though. You need to get impact cores, and then reinforced cores, and then reinforced impact cores, and then destruction cores, which takes a netherite hammer, which is 3 netherite. And then, yeah, it just keeps incrementing higher and higher as you make the different cores. So craftable name tag, saddles, and trident. Pretty explanatory 3 mods. They just give you a crafting recipe to make saddles and name tags and tridents, although you need breeze rods, which kind of difficult to come by, but yeah, this way it should be easier to get those things that you should be able to make anyway. So
Rotten flesh to leather.
With this mod installed, you'll be able to take all that rotten flesh that you get from killing zombies and stuff and smoke it into leather, which is very convenient for the next few mods, but just because you'll need a lot of leather for books and for
Leather bundles.
and there it is. You can make bundles with the leather that you've made. You're going to be making a lot of books as well, you know, obviously in Minecraft, but with this you'll be able to make a quick and easy storage solution. Bundles are a really sweet, vanilla-friendly way of going about kind of having somewhere to put all the little things that you gather while you're out and about on the road in Minecraft. So yeah, with this mod it's easier to acquire them.
Magic mirror.
Yeah, this mod isn't going to help with the Terraria accusations. With 6 iron ingots and a diamond, you can make a magic mirror, which kind of acts like the Hearthstone item from World of Warcraft, if you guys remember that. So wherever you have your respawn set, so to your bed or something, if you're carrying the magic mirror and right-click with it, you can teleport back to your respawn spot, which is pretty handy if you're out mining and exploring and you just want to get back to your base super quick. You can just right-click your Hearthstone or your magic mirror and poof, you're back home.
Villager hats.
I can't be the only one who has looked at villagers with a little bit of jealousy, man, wishing that I could wear their hats because they're super fashionable. Well, with this mod, you can. Yeah, you can put on basically any of the villager profession hats. You can craft them. They fit in the trinket slot, so you can actually wear your armor, but you can see just the hat, and yeah, it's not too difficult to craft them. It's mostly just the leather cap mixed with other things.
Musket mod.
This mod adds a variety of weaponry to the game, including the flintlock pistol, the musket, the blunderbuss, and some other variants of the musket, like the scoped musket or the musket with the bayonet. You know, we're getting real old-fashioned here with Minecraft. We're not super advanced yet, but all of the guns use paper cartridges, which you can make, and yeah, they work kind of like a crossbow. You just prime them up and you can let her rip, you know, like a proper hunter. There's a chicken. Blah. Hello, sheep. Ah. Haha. Yeah, so pretty interesting gun mod. Not really sure how the blunderbuss is different from the musket. It's supposed to be like a shotgun, but the scoped musket's pretty cool. The range is kind of tricky to figure out, but I mean, you still can snipe stuff with it. So if you want to be a little bit more accurate, there is that option. Hold on. Did we get that pig? We did get him. And then the sword with the bayonet with the musket appears to do just about as much damage as it does with a normal sword. So you know you can not shoot Endermen. They will teleport out of the way just like an arrow, but you can still kill them with the bayonet. So
exposure.
This might be my favorite mod in the entire mod pack. So it adds the camera item and a bunch of things around taking pictures with this camera. And it's like super realistic. This isn't just taking screenshots. This is like full on, you're using a real life camera in Minecraft. You can change things like the focal length, the shutter speed. You can even go to a selfie mode, which is if you go into third person, which is pretty funny. So you can grab, you know, pictures of yourself with stuff. But the main thing that comes along with the camera are film rolls, which if you crouch and interact, you can place them into the camera, which will then allow you to actually take pictures. And you can add a bunch of different attachments like a flash and a lens and like some filters. So if you want your pictures to have like a different, you know, for the Instagram filter, don't know why you would do that. It's a little odd, but yeah, so we're going to take that off for now. But I'm going to show you what it looks like to take some pictures and develop them. So we have a few options here, like putting flash on, which we can see working here in a second. There it is. So yeah, just that you have a flash. I think I took a long exposure there with that one. So might want to turn up the shutter speed a bit. There you go. So that way the image won't be blurry. Gonna grab a picture of this cow here, this pig. Bit of a longer exposure on that. So that was with the black and white film, but you can also make a color film. But all of the film needs to be developed in a Lightroom block. So you see here the Lightroom block. In order to develop a black and white film, you need to mix it with a water bottle. And then in order to develop the image negatives, which you can see here when you put the film in, the developed film in the Lightroom block, which you can develop black and white images with just black ink and paper, which will give you this little paper item. And you can do that, yeah, with just all the pictures that you took in the thing. And here they are. And so you can see they got this nice like analog looking like film grain, very realistic as if you actually took an old-fashioned photo, which you can place into a picture frame, which is very nice. So you can place any pictures, rotate them, and then just break them out. So you can display any pictures that you took, which is pretty awesome. Conversely, you can place them into a photo album, which you can just click on and boom, and place your, it's just basically like a little storage for all of the photos that you took. It's just like another, another book and quill, but for the color film, we can get slightly more interesting photos. So we're going to take a picture of some colorful things here, like this, I don't remember what that's called, glowberry stuff, Eye of Ender. And to develop a color film, you need to use the thick, awkward, and what was the other one? I don't remember what it was. But once it's developed, you place that in the Lightroom. Take the old one out, put the new one in, and now you can see we still got the negatives here, and we can't just develop it with black dye. We have to add cyan, yellow, and magenta, at which point we can develop the other images. Sorry, excuse me. And here they are. Now, I really appreciate this mod. It's so interesting to have such a granular control over taking pictures in game. It really makes you feel like you're in your world. So we're gonna put those in our photo album. Now there is a way to copy pictures that you took. If you just put paper and all of the dyes onto a paper in the crafting bench, then you can copy your photos.
Soul candles.
With this mod installed, you'll be able to craft a soul candle variant, soul fire variant of the standard candle using soul sand, which burn with the blue soul light, which is really cool looking. There's it is next to the normal candle. Ooh, blue. Very nice.
Traveler's backpack.
This mod adds a very comprehensive backpack functionality to the game, which can be crafted, well, honestly, there's a ton of recipes, but the standard backpack is pretty straightforward with like a chest and leather, and you can add a sleeping bag to it, which is like a variant of the bed that you can sleep in without setting a respawn. And inside the backpack UI, it just gives you more inventory space with a bunch of toggleability. There's also a tank upgrade that you can add to your backpacks when you craft them. Sorry, excuse me, I have a cold. And these tanked backpacks have if you look on the bottom right, you can actually fill them up with a hose item, which can be used to right-click on water sources and fill up the tanks in the backpack, which can then be used to deposit fluids into a bucket, as you can see there. You can just place them in, then boom, and you have your filled buckets from your backpack tank, so you can keep fluids on you as you need. There are a bunch of functions and features with different backpacks. If you have too many backpacks in your inventory, you will get a slowness effect. And there are backpack variants that give you special effects, but I think I have that disabled for the mod pack's sake, just because it's a little overpowered. Stuff like giving you reduced fall damage and like increased jump height, all those kind of things, but that's up to you whether or not you want to include those. Like climbing on walls, see here with the spider backpack. But yeah, with the pack, I removed the abilities because it's a little overpowered, and I made it so that certain entities don't just spawn with them. But they can be crafted still, I guess for cosmetic reasons, at least in the pack. And you can always disable it if you want. So just a bunch of different crafting recipes to make a bunch of different backpacks. Some of them have bigger sizes too. There's like tier upgrades and things like that. So great mod.
Traveler's compass.
Using this recipe here on screen, you can craft a tracking compass called the Explorer's Compass, which gives you a bunch of options for checking or searching the world for certain items based on the parameters there on screen. So what it does is it just kind of searches in this wide radius. So here we're searching for rotten flesh based on drops, and here it's pointing us to a zombie, which we can see here as well. That works the same principle with emeralds for villagers. So here you can track where villagers are, so that way you could find a village if you had an emerald on you, and this compass. Here we're tracking the mystical oak tree and a Gippel's gelatin block. So here it led us to the mystical oak tree, which is pretty funny if you were trying to find one, but you'd need the head of one, so that'd be a little odd. It comes with a bunch of configurable options to give you information about the compass. So I mean, that's there if you want it. But here it led us to the Gippel's gelatin blocks. So it doesn't really work with blocks or things that are dropped from certain ores. So here we're trying to search for diamonds and it's not picking up that diamond nearby. So I was thinking, okay, let me see what it can pick up. So it led us to this like trials chamber with the snowball, but not the trial key. This does spike the lag in your world just a little bit because it's searching over a ton, but if you have an ancient debris ore, you can find more if you put that in, as well as blaze rods if you're trying to find more blazes. So yeah, all in all, a pretty useful mod, but a bit tricky to get the hang of.
Reimagined trims.
With this mod installed, armor trims have a copying recipe. So if you have a particular trim, you can follow a recipe to get a duplicate of that trim. So that way it's easier to get a full matching set of a certain trim instead of having to loot and loot and loot for ages to get a complete set of a certain design. So yeah, this way trims are a little bit more accessible, which is really awesome.
Flat bedrock.
This mod changes the world gen slightly by making it so that the bedrock layer is perfectly smooth and flat and doesn't have a bunch of that jumbled thing with pockets and stuff.
Universal ores.
This mod adds a bunch of different variants for your basic ores for a bunch of different stone types. So andesite, blackstone, granite, diorite, all now have different ores in them.
Geophilic.
I'm not a super big fan of terrain generation mods that stray too far from the standard vanilla world generation, so which is why I really like this mod, because what it does is just change and add some subtle features to your standard vanilla biomes without changing or introducing any new blocks. So instead you'll just get some interesting features like stone cliffs with these spikes, fallen logs, stone like big rocks around, and it just generally makes the world feel a little bit more interesting.
Serene seasons.
This mod adds a very basic weather and season system to the game with spring, summer, autumn, winter, each with their own kind of weather events. Obviously it'll snow in the winter time, and the trees will actually update their colors over the colder seasons. So it'll just make your world feel more alive, more realistic, and even has some gameplay ramifications because certain seeds like wheat will only grow in a certain season. So summer is when the wheat will grow the best, in the autumn and stuff. So yeah, great mod.
Spyglass astronomy.
With this mod installed, the spyglass gets an extra functionality as well as your world generation. So what this does is that during the nighttime, each world that you generate will have a special unique skybox of stars and planets in the sky, which if you use your spyglass, you can actually draw constellations. You can draw special custom constellations between different stars, which is really cool. And it's not totally clear which ones will connect, but if you just kind of point it and keep connecting. You can also go to a planet mode, which will let you name certain stars and planets, and you can even name constellations as well. So yeah, switching between the different spyglass modes, you can make your sky your own. You can kind of add your own lore, add your own directions, you know, the North Star will take me to here, you know, kind of thing. So you can have fun with making your world your own with this mod.
Hearths.
This mod changes the nether generation in a subtle way by adding these netherrack pillars and blackstone pillars, which kind of spice up your environment, as well as these red and blue towers that have spawners and loot inside of them, and you can find them in your nether, and just generally makes the nether a bit more of an interesting place to explore with new buildings.
Nitosphere.
This mod gives a couple of quality of life changes to how the nether generates. It increases the height of the nether a little bit, increases the amount of quartz. It makes it so that crimson and warped giant fungi check the terrain a little bit better, and just generally makes the nether a little bit better in this generation.
Adventure dungeons.
Minecraft's got good dungeons in the game, but with this mod there's going to be a lot more new and interesting trial chambers and dungeons for you to explore and loot from. Things like the cold layer, a bunch of, again, different trial rooms, the bygone dungeon, some ruins, and yeah, just making the world a little bit more interesting to explore with more structures and more dungeons to peruse.
Villages and pillages.
With this mod installed, you can expect to find hostile villages called pillages around in your world. As of right now, there's only one particular village, this kind of witch hut town in the swamp, but the mod intends to add more in the future, so look forward to seeing that.
Better village placement.
In vanilla Minecraft, sometimes villages can get generated on top of some really wacky terrain, and it just makes the village not really look very good. So with this mod installed, the villages will be placed more carefully on flat terrain. So I checked, and that doesn't really make villages any more rare, maybe a little bit more rare, because the mod is checking to make sure that it's on flat terrain. I mean, here there's like this big crevice through it, it, so it's not perfect. But yeah, it just generally makes it so that villages are not going to be super crazy wacko, but actually have a little bit of sense to them.
Jung's better structures.
So I've got a bunch of Jung's mods in here that I'm just going to summarize all up together as Jung's structures. But there's the Jung's better desert temples, better dungeons, better end island, better jungle temples, better mine shafts, better nether fortress, better ocean monuments, better strongholds, and better witch huts. So those are all included in the pack, and they improve the game by making these really cool looking versions of your standard structures in Minecraft, but really awesome instead.
Explorify.
This mod adds a bunch of vanilla-friendly structures to the game, like that red sand desert temple, this campsite. We got a homesteading villager out living his best life, a villager town hall or tavern, I think it's called. Some structures to the nether, like this, I think it's called the Dark Spiral, which has a bunch of piglins in it. Even an overturned end ship out in the end. So yeah, lots of cool structures.
Endercon.
The end dimension really could use some love with its generation. So what this mod does is just amplifies and makes the end generation a little bit more dramatic, a little bit more fancy. Maybe a little bit overkill. I mean, that's a lot of big structure there, but it just makes the end a little bit more interesting to traverse, to explore, and to look at. Just basically an amplified version of World Gen for the end dimension. So after you kill the Ender Dragon, go explore.
Looter.
This mod allows multiple people, maybe in a multiplayer world, to loot the same loot chests that are randomly generated. So each world now has these special textured chests that have different loot individually for different players, so that multiple players can loot the same chests.
Be able to access inventory in there as well, right?
That's
does
true.
does it have different stuff?
I have 3 gold ingots and a saddle in this one, and then 2 iron ingots in this one.
Yeah, it's different. Deeper, darker.
This mod adds a bunch of new content for the skulk side of Minecraft. First and foremost, it adds a new dimension called the Other Side, which you can open by defeating the Warden, which will now drop a Heart of the Deep item, which you can use to open the Ancient City portal by right-clicking on it. This dimension features a bunch of new plants, biomes, blocks, wood types, mobs, and materials that can be used to craft more armor sets and tools. There's this staff that gives you the Warden's ranged attack, which is pretty cool, and a skulk transmitter device that lets you open chests at a distance. On the other side, you'll find mobs like the skulk leeches, anglerfish, sludge, which are kind of like slimes, and mini wardens called the Shattered, and a bunch of other stuff. This is one of the more feature-rich mods added to the game, and it's definitely worth exploring.
Distant Horizons.
This mod adds LODs to Minecraft. That's basically the short of it, but what that means is just that you can see a lot farther in your world for a lot less resource usage, and you can see like crazy far, honestly, and it works with shaders. It recently got updated, so the performance is way improved. If you've never tried this before, definitely go check it out. It's an awesome mod.
Iris.
Shaders are a really interesting way to get some pretty awesome visuals in Minecraft. So here in the pack, we've got a couple of different shaders that you can access, like BSL and complementary. And this mod, the Iris mod, is what allows you to do that. So yeah, your Minecraft can look super good.
Camera overhaul and camera utils.
These two mods add a bunch of different features to your Minecraft camera, mainly camera overhaul, which gives your camera some sway and some weight to it so that it really moves well as you move, which you can all customize entirely. I've turned it up here in this footage so you can see what it's doing. The camera utils mod is what gives you the cinematic camera option to get that smooth camera movement. It gives you the zoom function so you can zoom in on stuff. It also allows you to change your third-person distance with this tool, which is really, really cool, actually. You can see like super far. And yeah, it just makes the camera more effective in the game.
Better third person.
This mod frees up your third person movement so that you can move in basically any direction you want without having to turn your camera.
First person model.
This mod allows you to see your character model in first person, so you can see your feet. You can customize it so that you can see your arms some of the time or most of the time. It's not really compatible here with Hold My Items, but yeah, it's a pretty great mod for being able to see your character.
Hold My Items.
This mod adds a bunch of visual changes and animations to your first person's arms, which I like using in conjunction with the first person model mod, but then just turning the arms off, because then I can see these animations, and it adds a bunch of specific animations to throwing things and using things like swords and a pickaxe and a shovel and an axe, so that each thing kind of has its own character to it as you're using it. And it just it feels really realistic. It's just, there's some really high quality animations in here.
Not enough animations.
With this mod installed, you'll be able to see some first-person animations that you generally can only see in first person to third person. So things like how your character climbs up ladders and drinks potions or paddles in a boat, you can see in third person view now instead of just first person.
Footprint particles.
This mod adds a footprint looking particle that you see on the ground behind any mobs or entities that walk. So behind the player, behind mobs, behind hostile creatures, anything that walks will now leave these little footprints on the ground, which will gradually disappear.
Eating animations.
This mod makes the sprites of any items you're eating in the game animate down so that you can see that you're actually eating things. So when you're crushing loaves, you can really see that you're crushing loaves.
Ambiance.
This mod adds a bunch of new particle effects to the game. So here you can see whenever Skulk spreads, there are these little bubbles that spread on the ground. It also adds these particles that float off of things like blazes and endermen. So they have a little bit more interest around them. Torches now have smoke particles and some other particles around them. Ender eyes, when they're placed in the portal frame, or have this cool like effect around them, which is just really awesome. It makes it more impactful. I'm pretty sure these beams are already in the game, but if not, at least these particles certainly are from ambience.
Subtle effects.
This mod also adds a bunch of new particles to the game, like a sprinting dust cloud behind the player, slime puddles on the ground whenever slimes move, glowstone particles, log stripping, using bone meal, cheering sheep, and even sleeping villagers. Look, they got the sleeping Z's.
Visuality.
This mod also adds some new particles, like these ghost particles on soul sand, hitting skeletons, dropping these bones, so you can really tell that you damaged those skeletons, as well as my favorite thing, which is adding sparkles to ores in the game. Even your diamond armor, which will now sparkle, because it's awesome, because I'm awesome, because
particle effects.
This mod updates the basic particle that is usually used for every potion effect or other effect in the game, with personalized, updated, specific potion effects for each type of potion in the game. So here you can see different types of little icons that are used to indicate just what exactly the potion effect is that you're looking at. So hearts for a healing potion, these like little clouds for feather falling, skulls for poison, these little sparkles for levitation, swirls for darkness, just a bunch of really cool specific potion effects so that you can better tell what effects that you have on your character.
Falling leaves.
This mod adds a little particle effect under any leaves in the game to just make it appear as if leaves are falling from the trees, which is really realistic looking. It works on azaleas and a bunch of different leaf types and just makes the game feel more alive.
Particle rain.
This mod makes rain a little bit more visually interesting to look at by adding this like ground fog on the ground whenever it's raining, as well as this like drippy effect on walls. So just making rain a little bit more interesting to look at.
Wakes.
This mod adds a tasteful little particle animation to any trails left behind things swimming in water. So boats or mobs or entities floating in the water will have this nice little trail floating behind them, which is really cool.
Make bubbles pop.
This mod is, again, pretty subtle change. It makes bubbles in the game, bubble particles, have this little break animation whenever they pop, so bubbles will look a little more realistic and be more interesting to look at.
Ambient environment.
This mod might be the most subtle one amongst all of them. I don't even know if you'll be able to tell in this footage, but it variates the color of grass surfaces across large distances so that they have a little bit more variation to them.
Continuity.
This mod is kind of a texture pack / mod. It allows you to load connecting type resource packs, so making the class connect together, or here I'm using a connected paths resource pack, so just making things connect.
Explosive enhancement.
With this mod installed, your explosions will be a little bit more impactful by having this like cool red glowing animation added to them, so your explosions will be bigger.
Soul fire.
This mod makes entities that catch on fire from soul fires will actually burn with the blue kind of flame instead of the orange one as usually happens in vanilla Minecraft, and that includes arrows and any other entities that get lit on fire from soul fire. They'll instead burn with the souls of fire.
Sounds.
This mod's pretty self-explanatory. It adds little sounds to item interactions in your inventory. For most of the mods in this section, I'm just gonna let the mod speak for itself, or make the sounds for itself, so you can hear what it does. It's the scroll bar we're listening to here, by the way. Typing sounds.
Auditory.
This mod updates and adds a bunch of sounds for the game with breaking blocks or using certain items. It's also the mod that provided this handy-dandy list to actually play any sounds in the game. The list also allows you to change the volume of specific sounds.
Dynamic surroundings.
This mod adds a variety of different sound things to the game, like ambient noises, but primarily reverb in caves. It also adds a bunch of other sounds, like with your hotbar and with some other things, jet trails on lava and water interactions, as well as water splashing, but I've toned down some of the hotbar sounds so they don't clash with others.
Immersive thunder.
This mod makes thunder behave a little bit more realistically and dramatically, so it's a little louder, more realistic, and doesn't like sound super loudly in your ear when you're down below ground. The dynamic surroundings mod also updates some of the thunder sounds, so not all of this is just the immersive thunder mod, but all in all, these sound mods together make for a very realistic feeling overworld and very interesting soundscape, so that your game feels very, very immersive.
Cool rain.
This mod makes rain have specific sounds for certain circumstances, so on water or metal or glass surfaces, on leaves, so take a listen.
Presence footsteps.
This mod makes your footsteps a little bit more realistic by changing the sound and the volume based on the material you're stepping on. Pretty customizable and has case-specific situations, like if you're stepping on wet surfaces, and is all in all a great mod.
Hardcore revival.
If you're a gamer like me, you've probably played games with revive mechanics. You get downed in Fortnite, you're gonna be on the ground. Well, this mod brings that function to Minecraft. When you die in the game or take fatal damage, you will enter a downed state where someone can, a friend of yours can interact with your player model and res you.
Dude, it didn't even like,
No.
it didn't let me place.
But when you get
water
rezzed,
bucket.
you have a weakness and hunger effect for...
Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm gonna die. We got this. We got this.
Oh, gosh, we go all this time and then near the end we're just like struggling. Chat patches and beautified chat client.
These mods add some features and some quality of life changes to the chat in Minecraft, like adding timestamps, changing the color of some messages, handling duplicate messages, and a bunch of other settings that you can see here in the config. It allows you to have a pretty straightforward kind of copy paste system. So yeah, great mods.
Suggestion tweaker.
Similarly, this mod makes it so that when you're typing commands in the console, you get better suggestions or more improved or comprehensive autofill for your commands. So if you're trying to type in certain commands and can't remember exactly the right things to write down, this mod will help you fill in the blanks and be able to more quickly change game mode or change game rules or different things like that.
Talk bubbles.
This mod makes it so that any messages you type in chat will appear above your head, or at least it'll appear above your own head for your own messages if you set the config to do so, like I have here. But it usually just does it for people that are not yourself, just so your multiplayer friends in your server. That's about as big as the message can get. I tried copy pasting the fitness pacer test, and so that's as big as the messages can get, and it's just a fun mod to see what people are saying above their own characters, like they're in a proper RPG.
Chat heads.
With this mod installed, any players who send messages in the chat will have their skin visible to the left of their name. And this makes it a little bit easier to distinguish who sent what message in chat just at a glance. And it's just a very nice multiplayer server type of convenience type mod, so you can see who is sending the messages in chat just a bit more easily.
Simple voice chat.
This mod adds proximity chat to the game.
I'm going to stalk you. You build a house, I'm going to look through your windows.
I placed the torch and he died instantly, and I was like, oh.
There's emeralds here.
Oh my god, why is there so many? There's 4?
There's a lot of
Compatible with reverb from the dynamic surroundings mod, is very feature rich. You can create groups and change volumes. It's a little tricky to set up on a server, but once you do, it's super rewarding.
Voice chat interaction.
This mod adds a feature to the simple voice chat mod that makes it work with skulk sensors. So it's not there when you're sneaking. Like if you're sneaking and you speak, then I guess the game counts it as whispering. But the moment I stand up, suddenly they can hear me talking. Hello? 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 And last but not least, there are a variety of performance improving mods present in the pack to just help deal with FPS and loading times and a variety of different things. You can check out the mods specifically individually, what they change, and see what things will be beneficial for your system. Sodium is a massive FPS boost, a bunch of culling mods which like help with entities on screen, enhanced block entities which handles like how chests and stuff are rendered so that it's faster, FPS on screen so you can see what your FPS is without F3, dynamic FPS. Mod menu is a support mod that allows you to like actually access the configs inside the game. And finally, Yeetus Experimentus, which removes sending Mojang like logging data, you know, for like experimenting to performance feedback stuff, which you can just remove because it's not really important. So alright guys, sorry for the super long video, but I just wanted to get through like all of the mods that I had in the pack. There's still some resource packs to talk about that I'll probably do in another video, which you can check out here if I've already made it, or in the future if I have yet to make it. But yeah, this pack, this video I wanted to just be a resource for you guys to go to if you want to understand or know a bit more about any of the mods that are in the pack. And yeah, so just that you can enjoy it a bit more. So I will be, if you check out my Discord channel, I will be trying to keep any changelog or updates. Cal, what are you doing to me? You got a problem? Yeah, so check the Discord if you have any questions or if you want to talk to me or ask me personally anything about the pack. I will be trying to update it as often as is reasonable, but eventually I will want to kind of lock down the version and the type because I'm going to be making a Minecraft server and stuff for my YouTube members and things, which I still need to set up. So yeah, just stay tuned for that. And I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.